Okay, here we go. So this will be a short demonstration on how to create a box and whisker plot using the real estate data that we have, the same data that we have to work with for the assignment. So I'm starting here with some unedited data for the suburb of Kingston, and as you can see, the data's as it is as you find it on the student drive. We have it sorted by default, sorted by date. So starting from 1990 and going all the way up to, if I have a quick look down here, we can see it goes up to 2011 as we expect. Okay, good. So in this short demonstration, using the data as it is here, so all of it from 1990 to 2011, we will create just one box and whisker to have a look at the distribution of those sale prices over that time. Okay, well, yeah, here we go. So as you can see, I've already set up some boxes here for entering in my 5-number summary. Also need to work out the interquartile range, and then for outliers we need to look at the fences. Now remember, the fences are defined as being 1.5 times the interquartile range, either above the upper quartile. So that's if we're looking for the upper fence, we do 1.5 interquartile ranges above the upper quartile, Q3. And the lower fence is defined as being 1.5 interquartile ranges below the lower quartile. And so then if we have any values that lie below the lower fence or above the upper fence, we consider them to be outliers, and they are not included in our final analysis. So we basically change our min and our max to suit. Now, as you can see here, I've already put a space aside for a new maximum, because I am expecting that the maximum in here is an outlier, but I could be wrong. We'll see what happens, and I'm assuming also that there won't be a minimum that's sitting below the lower fence. So I'm thinking the only thing that will need to be changed here in terms of outliers will be the maximum. But let's see what happens anyway. So in order to calculate the 5-number summary, we've been through this before in class, so I'll run through this quickly. Let's start with the minimum. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. We can use the quartile function, or we can just use minimum. I'm just going to go with that one because that's a quick, easy way to do it. We need to highlight the array, the column of numbers that we need to process that minimum function on. And a quick way to do that, of course, is just to click up here and highlight the whole column. Okay, now ordinarily you'd think to close the brackets there before you hit enter. I'm just going to be a bit lazy and hit enter because Excel will know to close the brackets for me, and well, it basically knows what I'm trying to do. So I'm just being a bit lazy. So there it is. There's our minimum quartile. So we're going to use, this is a lower quartile, so we use quartile, open brackets. Again, highlight the array as our first argument, and then our second argument, so we put a comma in, and our second argument that we type in here is the 1. Okay, so that tells us, well, that tells Excel that we're trying to work out the lower quartile. Okay, the median, so we can use quartile 2, or we can just type in median. So let's try this median, highlight that sale price column. Something didn't work. Oh yeah, of course, I need to put an equal sign in there. There we go, let's fix that up. Okay, so there we go again. There's our median, up quartile. So we're using the quartile function here again. Highlight that column. This will be quartile 3. And the max, well, that's easy. We just type in max. So remembering that we could also do quartile 4 here, if you so desire. Okay, that's that. Okay, so we have our 5-number summary. What we'll do now is calculate the interquartile range. The interquartile range is the upper quartile, subtract from that the lower quartile. Okay, so that again just to reiterate, the interquartile range tells us what the middle 50% of the data is, the range of the middle 50%. Just a quick thing in here, format the numbers, so we'll turn them into currency. This one here as well, just it fits in nicely with the data over here. Okay, let's do the fences. Let's look at outliers. So I could even just put a note in here that that's what these fences are all about, outliers. They're basically the critical values that determine, or the cutoffs that determine where our maximum and minimum should be. So the lower fence, so we're going to start with that one. So from the lower quartile, we subtract 1.5 lots of the interquartile range. There we go, and as you can see that value is minus 112,500. Clearly, that's well below zero. Our minimum up here is 1,000, so there's no need to go changing our minimum here. Clearly, that's sitting within the fences. It's above the lower fence, so we keep our minimum as it is. Let's test now for the upper fence. So this is equal to the upper quartile plus 1.5 times the interquartile range. There we go. And there we have it. So looking at that, our upper fence is 387,500. The maximum that we have here, though, is 1.2 million. So now we can clearly see that this maximum is an outlier. And before we do our full analysis and create a box and whisker here, and by the way, we can actually create a box and whisker with the data as it is, and probably we'll do that anyway. But ultimately, we want a box and whisker that only includes a 5-number summary that has been put through the checking process of outliers. Okay, so now to find the new max, it could just be a nice easy thing to say, well, it's just the upper fence. Well, actually, we have to find a value in the data that sits below that upper fence or equal to. Now, there may well be a piece of data in there, a sale price, that is exactly equal to the upper fence. If not, though, we have to go for the first one that is below that. So in order to do that, we need to scan through the list. Now, as we look at this list of sale price data, it's not ordered. It's not in any ascending or descending order. So to look for that critical value, the one that's either equal to or just below 387,500, that's going to be a bit difficult. But we can sort this data, and that will make our job a lot easier, because then we can just scan down the list and we'll find the place where it all happens easily. Okay, so as I've done in class, I'll do this again, but in slow, easy steps. And given that this is recorded as a video, you'll be able to pause it and rewind it or whatever. Go back and look over it at your own leisure. So the way to sort this data, the best way to sort this data is we want to sort it by sale price. So we need to have our sale price as the rightmost column or the leftmost column, but here it makes sense to put it as a rightmost column. We've got a space there where we can put that. So let's just copy that whole column, Control C, into this column here. Okay, so everything's the same. All we've got now is an extra column, a repeated or duplicated column for sale price. Now, if we highlight all the data, starting from column G and then working back to column A, we can now find the sort function, which is up here. And as it is, it's sorting from A to Z, so that should be ascending from smallest to largest. And the nice thing is it will sort with respect to the sale price first. Okay, well, actually it only sorts with respect to the sale price. All the other data in here will sort of move around accordingly, so that so that we still have our addresses and locations and postcodes and everything. It's all maintaining its integrity and staying together as you want it to. Okay, so all right, so here we go. A to Z, sort, done. Great, excellent. Clearly, you can see the sale price, the minimum sale price of $1,000 is the first one here, and that's a good quick way to check that yes, we have the right minimum. So without further ado, let's go down. Let's look for. Remember, we're looking for the first value that is either equal to or below 387,500. So quicker way is obviously to scroll this way. There are some other ways of going about this, by the way. You can use certain commands that will actually look at all the data in that column and find the appropriate values. But I think this way that we're doing it here is probably the quickest and easiest anyway. All right, so let's have a look in here. 386 looks like to be the number that we're chasing here. Now, I'm just going to remember what that cell is. It's G4376. G4376. So let's type that in here. G4376. Okay, and there is our new max. Now it seems like it's a fair amount less than the original max. But if we go down again and just have a look at how many outliers there are, so all of these values from 1.2 million down to 390,000, they're all outliers. In fact, if I just highlight like that, you can get a sense of how many there are. Looks to me like, there's probably about 40 odd, maybe 45 in there. So that's a significant number of outliers, which we're effectively going to ignore in our box and whisker plot. All right, so back up here. So now we get to the business of actually building a box and whisker plot. So this table here, we can give it a name actually. We can call this our stacks, if you like. The stacks for the stacked bar chart that we'll be creating from this. So here we go. So as denoted in these cells here, we're really just looking at differences between quartiles. In fact, the first one is, if you like, you can think of that as quartile 0, or the minimum, minus 0. So we're looking at the difference between the lower quartile and 0. So let's just transfer that number straight across. Done. This one in here will be the lower quartile minus the min. That one's done. Now we've got a formula there that should do the rest of it for us, hopefully. Let's just check that worked. So this one here, K12 minus K11. K12 is the upper quartile, K11 is the median. So we're doing upper quartile minus the median. Done. Excellent. Now this one here, Q4 minus Q3. Now we have changed our max, so that's not right. This one here actually should be now K14 minus K12. Good. Done. And now we'll do this extra stack here, if you like. This one here we'll be looking at the difference between the original maximum, the 1.2 million, and our new one. So we're essentially looking at the distance between our new max and our old max. Okay, and we'll create a stack out of that, because generally with a box and whisker plot, which has outliers removed, it's a good idea to just have a ghost mark of where that outlier was. And in fact, in practice, normally what you would do is you would show all the outliers, but given that we have so many here, that would not be a desirable process to go through. So we'll just do the maximum one, and that should be sufficient. Good, great, excellent. Let's do this. So all we have to do is pretty much just highlight that column of numbers there, which are the differences between the quartiles. We'll go into charts. We do the bar, the stacked bar. There it is. Now, as it's presented there, it's not right. We need to modify that. Before I do that, I'm going to move that chart into its own sheet, so it's a bit bigger, a bit easier to look at. I'll just call this box plot. Here we go. Good. Now, an easy trick here is really just to, better go through that again actually. So if you want to edit your data, just in this space here, just right click and select data. Okay. Now, switch row and column is essentially what we need to do here, because as it's presented, what's it doing here? It's basically graphing each of those values, each of those stacks, as separate bar graphs. But we want them all to be on top of each other as just one bar graph. So basically, this variable here, which is being put on the y-axis, that should be our x-axis, and the house prices here that you see on the x-axis, that needs to be the y-axis. So we need to do a switcheroony, if you like, of the rows and columns, and that should do the job. Hopefully, yes, there it is. Very good. So what we now have is basically our box and whisker is sitting in there, and to start putting it together, well. These two boxes here, the purple and the green one, what's it, an olive colour maybe, I don't know. Anyway, those two boxes there they are the boxes. They're the boxes. So quickly, if we just right click in here, we can format these. Now, the main couple of things, and by the way, if you're using Windows, your options and your way to your options might be a little bit different. But essentially, it's the same what you're doing here. So the two things that we're going to do here, firstly, we want to remove the fill. Or some of you might like to keep it. I don't know. I'm going to remove it. I'm just going to make it plain and boring to start with, I suppose. So remove the fill. And the second thing is to put a border around it. So to do that, let's go to fill. And let's go into here, no fill. And secondly, we want line. We want a black line, a black border, if you like, to go around it. So that bit's done. Do the same thing here. So that's essentially the part of the box going from the median to the upper quartile. This here is from the median to the lower quartile. So again, format data series. We're on line here, so let's go straight in there and put a line in, a solid black line. Fill. We make the fill no fill. Done. Very good. Okay. Now for the whiskers. So we'll need a whisker in here. Now to put a whisker across this stack requires us to highlight this actual stack in here, and then we have to find error bar options, which come under chart layout. On mine anyway. I think for Windows, it's just under layout. I think it's called layout, and it depends what version you have as well. All right, so error bar options is where we need to go, and we're doing a whisker from the upper quartile to the max. So we're looking at the plus side of things. If we can have a cap on there, that'd be good. That'd be nice. We need to custom it and specify the value. So in here, we're doing a positive error bar. It's not really an error bar, by the way. We're just using the error bar idea to create a whisker. So yeah, it's in this context, it's not actually an error bar, but it's a useful tool for what we're doing anyway. Positive error value, so that the value that goes in here is actually the distance from, remember, we're going from the upper quartile to the max, so it would be this one here. Okay, that's that. So I've just basically put that value in there. That's all that's done. And then Shazam, there it is. There's our maximum. Excellent. Oh, sorry, there's our whisker. What am I talking about? Okay, let's do the lower whisker. So that'll be another error bar. Okay, this happens. All right, so I've made a mess of that. I'm going to go back and do it again. Delete that. Let's try again. So highlight that stack in there. Chart layout, error bars, error bar options, plus, yes, we want a cat, we want custom, we want to specify the value. So the value positive is this number here, should be this number here. See what happens. Spot on. Okay, good, got it, done. While I'm there, I can remove the fill for that as well. So format data series, go to fill, no fill, no fill up. There we go, good. All right, it's starting to take shape here. It is an arduous process to do this, but once you know what you're doing, you get the hang of it, you can obviously do it a bit quicker. So here, we want the lower whisker. We're going from, now, interestingly, we're going from the lower quartile to the min. The min is 1,000. Now, it almost looks like this goes to 0, but it doesn't. And so I guess that, I mean, you know, relative to these values here, 1,000 is close to 0. So that's why it looks like this is basically just going to 0. But anyway, here we go. Right click. I'm going to get rid of the fill first. So let's do that. No fill. Gone. Okay. While it's highlighted, chart layout, error bars, error bar options, cap. This time we're doing minus, custom, specify value. We're doing the negative error value this time. Into sales search here. So we're going now from Q1 to Q0, that distance, that number there, and I'll just delete that there. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I'll do it anyway. And that's pretty much what we want. I think that's it. Good, done. This one here, let's get rid of that as well. So fill, no fill. And there we kind of have it. Now I probably would touch this up a little bit more. There's a couple of things I do here. You can see that there's a kind of a shadow of where those stacks were, and there is a way of getting rid of those. Probably in here somewhere. I can't remember right now, but there is a way, I'm sure of it. Let's have a look here. Shadow. We don't want a shadow. Yes, probably it. Yeah, that's got rid of it. Good. So let's do that with this one as well. The other ones might be okay. Format data series. Shadow. Get rid of. Done. Good. Now I'm going to leave the shadow here for the moment. Maybe one good way to represent this outlier here is to just do something like this. So I guess at the end, when you're happy with this graph, and I'm not happy with it because I'll probably get rid of this. That's of no value. I would look at formatting this down here as well in some way. How can we format that axis? Let's try the scale. Let's try so the minimum is 0. The major unit is what, 200,000? Let's just make it 500,000. Let's see what that does. I don't know if that's any better. Probably not actually. No, maybe take it down to 100,000. Let's see what that does. Ooh, that's a bit busy. So maybe 200 was the ideal. Okay, all right, there we go. That's good. Now, just with a little bit more formatting, we can be happy with this graph. Let's pretend that's all done. When we're ready, we can copy this. Copy this. Okay, undo. Okay, let's try that again. So we copy this into a Word document. There we go. And probably with that shadow removed too, I think. And just maybe with some word art, we could just add, I don't know. Okay, here we go. I'm not au fait with what I'm seeing here, but there might be a way where you can just sort of edit in like a marker, just like a dot, just to represent where that outlier is. Okay, that should be enough for now. Okay, thank you.